This is just amazing stuff. Everybody, I'm so glad to have you back here on shopxsn.com. Something is happening here which I find really, really fascinating. It's going back in time through some great classic graphic novels, the kind that you can only find here at a store like Meltdown Comics. So you're on Shop XSN, the best and coolest geek merchandise on the planet, cultivated from around the world and especially around the store. So I've gathered together from these beautiful bookshelves here at 7522 Sunset Boulevard, a great journey into classic graphic novels, and I pulled a few titles that you're going to say, yeah, you're right, Clifford, amazing, amazing stuff. Look at these creepy covers. This is where we start. Why not at the beginning? One of the comic book journeys that started it all for all time. And for a lot of readers in the late 80s and early 90s, it was Neil Gaiman under the DC umbrella introducing us to the world of the Sandman. These are awesome reprinted editions from DC. Originally, they were just DC by themselves. But then things started getting really, really, really dark. They got so dark, and the stories that Neil Gaiman was telling in the Sandman became so surreal that DC Vertigo became a new imprint with Neil Gaiman's stories at the heart of it. Here is the very first story from the Sandman. This is where the Lord of Dreams has been captured by an Aleister Crowley type magician who lives in England in the early 1900s and summons the Dream Lord and captures him inside a glass bubble, making the mistake that he was capturing Death. But Death is the sister of Dream. The Dream Lord was captured by mistake. And so here is a especially famous panel, really famous panel, where the Dream Lord finally escapes the prison that has held him in place. For decades and decades and decades, the Dream Lord held against his will on the planet Earth in his embodiment as Dream. And so the beginning of the Sandman story begins, and we enter the dream world, where we spend 1/3 of our lives and we meet all of the Endless. That's right, with a capital E, the Endless. The characters who represent the physical embodiment of dreams, despair, desire, destruction, destiny, delirium, and death, of course. And right here, a most interesting side journey where the Lord Dream makes his first journey into hell. And where does he meet? Who does he meet? Etrigan. That's right. Everyone's favorite talking, rhyming demon, Etrigan, meets the Dream Lord in hell. And he also has a conversation. Let me flip this page real quick. The Dream Lord, Morpheus, not only does he meet Etrigan and have a bizarre conversation with him, but he also meets David Bowie. That's right, Lucifer. This is the most amazing splash panel page where Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg had actually drawn the realm of hell. But the instructions from Neil Gaiman was that when we go to meet Lucifer, Morningstar, he's supposed to look like David Bowie. That was the only specific instruction that Neil Gaiman, the writer, gave to his artists. He said, when we go to hell together and our lead character gets to meet Lucifer, the Morningstar, and the other people in his court in hell, I want him to look like David Bowie. And he looks exactly like the cover of Space Oddity in this panel. No joke, right here. Looks just like the cover. Does it not? Is it not true, Dennis? Looks exactly like the cover of Space Oddity. Very close. So Lucifer, this is my favorite splash page that Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg have ever done. Let's pull back a bit. I just want to, I don't care, we'll pull in close. I'm gonna move in because I want you folks to see this, our first double wide splash look at hell and all the crazy demons of hell under Lucifer's command. And there they are, meeting and looking at this unbelievable, frightening landscape. But these characters in this artwork, look at the detail. The horrible creatures. It's just craziness. Look at all this crazy stuff. And it's really awesome. Love the work in early Sandman. It got darker, it got bloodier, and it got more ghoulish, to tell you the truth. It got a lot bloodier and a lot more ghoulish. And DC Vertigo were safe because they weren't selling their comic books to children where any parents or parents groups could complain about it and get the comic book industry in trouble. They decided to create another imprint for their mature audience, and it was Vertigo. Vertigo, now responsible for this reprint of Remember, Remember, the 5th of November, Gunpowder, Treason, and Plot. I see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. V for Vendetta, the great, great classic from Alan Moore, one of the all-time outstanding must-read comic books that has to be on your desert island list of books to read. This and Watchmen, I think, are my two ultimate reads. I know a lot of other people say, you know, Dark Knight and blah, 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 a lot of other arguments for other books, especially nowadays that people have such diversified taste in comics. But in this V for Vendetta, the original story, you'll find out how Natalie Portman ended up shaving her head, the real story. It's all in here. Crazy. And a rather decent adaptation written by the Wachowskis and directed by their favorite second unit director. Yeah, that's right. They hired their second unit director, Mr. McTeague. That's his last name, isn't it? McTeague? Yes. And he was on The Matrix, working as second AD. And they're like, you know what you're doing. You can handle this. And they let him direct V for Vendetta. There is a stark quality to the artwork, the shadows, the way this story is put together. It's really intense. Take a look at some of these intense panels from David Lloyd, okay, with additional line work and ink with Steve Whitaker and Siobhan Dodds. But this is a remarkable classic graphic novel. It is so dense, the density of the narrative and the violence and the politics. It's the most chillingly believable story that Alan Moore has ever given us as a possible dystopian future world. We were just talking about George Orwell and his prophetic vision in 1984. Well, what if the horrifying, horrible, horrible, horrible totalitarian future society of 1984, what if it had a masked vigilante within it? Thus, V for Vendetta as a concept was born. V, the number 5 in Roman numerals. So many connections, so many amazing and powerful themes. There's nothing else like it, okay? And there's a lot of extra additional content in this edition, Behind the Painted Smile, with interviews and commentary from the original artists and editors, and lots of original story ideas and sketches and some layouts. Check this out. A discussion of layouts and characters and where Alan Moore was trying to guide David Lloyd in the process of creating this world, this future nightmare world, this dystopian society. I know, so good. This is the edition to get, this reprint. And I'm telling you, one last look at this before I put it down. One last look. There's our boy in his Guy Fawkes mask. I know, isn't that great? Super cool. This is it, guys. A must-have. So, 2 must-haves. Like, really, V for Vendetta, The Sandman, 2 ultra classics of adult graphic novels with serious themes and mind-expanding stories. What else do we have on the tip? Hello there, my love. Lovely to have you. One of the most popular TV shows in the history of the Megaverse. And it came from this beautiful little book right here from Skybound, from originally published independently, the horror comic book to end all horror comic books, The Walking Dead. And what I'm holding here in my hand right now, volume 2, but they have volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 28. How far are we in these Walking Deads? 28? 24. We're up to 24. They've got them all. They're all up there on the shelf. They're all there. Check out, it's great. This stuff, still classic black and white storytelling, violent, ghoulish horror, and a great representation of, you know, the challenge of mankind against a future world that he might not be prepared for. Oh, zombie apocalypse at its best. This is The Walking Dead. Look no further, guys. It's really cool stuff. So when you want to get into the classics, I have to recommend, you know, the basics. I'm starting here at the basics, but you folks are not going to believe how amazing and intense this story gets. Well, if you've been watching the show, if you've been watching The Walking Dead on AMC for all these seasons, then you know how awesome it gets. But, I mean, this is only volume 2. Only volume 2, and this is where some of the zombies were only just barely beginning to show up, and these characters were just starting to establish themselves. Oh, wow. This is crazy. I love this artwork. Look, that prison, that big prison that they find at the end of volume 2, and he's like, oh no, it's full of them. We can't go in there. But I have other plans. And there's all the characters right down here. That's so cool. This is great stuff. The Walking Dead. They think that it could be made safe. They think that that old state, that big penitentiary, could be made into a safe haven against the walkers. What else do you got on the end? Ooh, hey, nice. Also within our Alan Moore bailiwick, also deep, deep, deep within our Alan Moore bailiwick, we are in the trusted hands of Mr. Moore when he recycles some of the late 1800s, that's right, post-Victorian, late turn of the century characters from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and he gives us none other than the great champions, Mina Murray, Alan Quatermain, the Hunter, Captain Nemo, Hawley Griffin, Dr. Henry Jekyll, and Mr. Edward Hyde. So amazing. The Invisible Man, Vampire's Girlfriend, Mina, Alan Quatermain, a sloppy, messy, messy movie, and yet, still, in this omnibus, as you will see, a great, great work of comics art and an intense story. When Alan Moore goes dark, he really does go dark and crazy, but reworking these amazing Victorian characters, the Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll, Dracula's wife, Alan Quatermain, and you just got to see it. You've got to read this stuff. If you've never read it, don't let the movie become the bad introduction to what the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is really all about. It's super great, great stuff. Look at this. The artwork from Kevin O'Neill continues to amaze me. Really digging it. So these Victorian characters from all these different pieces of popular fiction end up being recycled by Mr. Moore as the heroes of this comic book story. Alan Quatermain is the great hunter who was played by Sean Connery. And oh, woe is me, that film. But you've got to love these books, these original books. Some visual storytelling unlike anything you've ever seen. And great use of colors, too. Wow. Coolness abounds. Captain Nemo is one of my most, favorite characters. And the Nautilus, wow, there it is. Just like in the movie. There's the Nautilus in this big splash page right here. Cool stuff, guys. These reprints are coming from DC Vertigo. As you all know, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was published originally without Vertigo, before they existed. But now the new editions are all Vertigo. So what else do I have? Well, we're going to get through with this segment a little bit early, I think. Yes. Since it's almost 6:30 now, we're getting ready for another brand new seller who's going to come on the air and bring you a real treat. We've got some fantastic segments coming up. But before we get off the air, I want to do one last thing. One last thing that's just so cool. James Robinson did an awesome thing with the rebirth of Starman. Jack Knight. a really, really great character, a really remarkable character. Jack Knight was based on the Silver Age DC Comics character, Ted Knight, the original Starman. So when these books came out in the 90s, and I'm all about the David Bowie song. I'm all about the David Bowie song that inspired the original Starman. But in the Silver Age, it was all about the original hero.
Oh, here we go.
And that was back in 1951, guys. The original 1951 Ted Knight is long gone, although his ghost reappears every now and again. But Eisner Award-winning writer James Robinson, who did Justice League of America and the Golden Age, has worked with these great artists to restore the Starman legacy, and it all went through the 90s and the 2000s as one of the best comic book collections that DC had in its canon. A great resurrection of Starman, really popular, and they've got all of them. I mean, I'm telling you, they've got all of them. See, here's two more. They've got volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an amazing collection. The very reluctant Jack Knight has to pick up where his father, Ted Knight, left off. And yeah, I'm telling you, they won a lot of Eisners. And it was really, really super cool. So, highly recommended. And I'm grateful that DC Comics still has their old logo. I know, take a real close look at this, John. I'm telling you, you don't see this anymore. You don't see this anymore, do you? You don't. Look at that. I haven't seen this in ages, the original DC Comics logo, because everybody knows that what it looks like now is, you know, this logo. This is what it looks like now. Is that my logo right there? Yeah. Compare new and old. New and old. How about that? That's great. So, it's really awesome to journey through time with you guys and talk about some classic graphic novels that I consider must-haves. Absolute required and satisfying, enriching reading. Now, most of the time, you shake your finger at the kids and say, kids, over the summer, this is required reading, and all the kids roll their eyes and say, you know, F you, I'm out of school for 3 months. I'm not going to do any required. You can't require me to read over summer. F you, teacher. But you know what? Trust. Trust in the Clifford and trust in XSN, because we're bringing you awesome stuff all the time. If I say this is required reading, you know it is. It's V for Vendetta. It's The Walking Dead. It is The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the ultra-classic Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. Horror and suspense and fantasy welded together in a mind-bending world trip mythology like nothing you've ever seen. And last but not least, a grand resurrection with Eisner Award-winning writer James Robinson, bringing us amazing. And hey, where did David Goyer get his start writing for DC? Before he was writing all these shows and movies, right? Everybody knows the big powerhouse name in the DC universe, David Goyer, and all the screenplays that he's written for them. Well, guess what? He started here, in these pages. Fantastic, working with James Robinson. Excellent stuff. Classics, classic graphic novels, must-haves, and I'll never say the words required reading ever again. That way you kids at home won't feel threatened by teacher. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an amazing segment. I am, as always, your humble host, and I'm grateful for your time and attention. We at Shop XSN are very glad to be streaming to you live on this amazing network. We're so happy to be here, and stay tuned, because in a very short while, in about 20-odd minutes, maybe 25 minutes, give or take a few, we're going to bring you another incredible segment. Who we got on the air, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to pull up my calendar. It's right here. There it is. In this next hour, we have a new seller, right? There's a new seller who's never been on. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be The Girl with One Eye, here at 7 o'clock Pacific time. Girl with One Eye, guest Kimberly Fisher. You can shop and see their fashion designs and how cool their stuff is online. And we're going to have their Etsy shop online for you. It's really, really cool. Girl with One Eye. And Amanda is coming on, the lovely, lovely, lovely Amanda. She's an amazing woman. Going to be very glad to pass the torch over to her for the next couple of segments. And get it going, guys. Enjoy the show. Shop XSN is going to be back in about 25 minutes. And Amanda is going to guide you through some amazing geek fashion from the creative mind of One-Eyed Girl. Coming right up. We'll see you in just a few moments.